Hey, thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. Let's have a talk. Ignore everything you know about where you think you are in the universe. You've been told over and over again that Earth is a planet, that it's a spinning realm, physically floating in a vacuum, hurling through the infinite expanse of a truly unknowable universe. This could not be further from the truth. This is a lie. With the globe model proven as a complete farce, there's never been a better time to remember who we are and where we are. The truth is, we are in the land of the dead. Let me explain. The ancient Greeks spoke of a North Pole paradise which they named Hyperborea, land beyond the north wind. The Hyperboreans were said to be a blessed, long-lived race, untouched by war, hard toil, and the ravages of old age and disease. Hyperborea was originally described as a land bordered by the great earth-encircling river Okeanos, personified by the Titan Oceanus. The Greeks knew the earth was flat, and this is why we find this earth-encircling serpent in Norse cosmology, a flat plane encircled by the serpent Jormungand. So beyond the border Okeanos was said to be a place where the sky dome, the firmament, rested its hard edge upon the flat earth. When we go back to Asian and Indian cosmology, with their many depictions of the magnificently tall Mount Meru at the center, it becomes clear that Hyperborea must be at the center, and that Oceanus is not the Antarctic ice wall, like we might initially assume, but is the secondary ice wall surrounding the North Pole, the same one that Mercator showed in his Arctic maps. Although the realm Hades is now seen as a sort of subterranean underworld, Greeks originally placed Hades on the outer rim of the earth beyond Okeanos. Based on this mythology and the ancient accounts, this would mean that we're in Hades right now. After all, these are the outer lands, on the outer rim of Okeanos, the inner ice wall. Hades is oftentimes confused with Tartaros, the pit of suffering beneath the earth. The difference is Tartaros was a place of torment, where souls were taken to receive divine punishment, whereas Hades was the land of the dead, on the gloomy outermost edge of earth. Hades is not necessarily a place of punishment. It's a sort of limbo between the higher and lower realms. Those of us who have felt the call of the aurora borealis, we feel this pull to get to the North Pole at some point in our lifetime. I find it interesting in the myths of Shambhala that the king of the world is said to be in tune with all the thoughts of those who direct the destiny of mankind. This implies that there are a distinct number of beings who shape the outcome of this realm. I don't have all the answers, but it's apparent that a particular group of beings are currently living out this incarnation where, for some reason, we're realizing that we might be leaving Hades and going back to the cradle of humanity. The finish line seems to be at the North Pole. As asked in a comic from the recent movie Logan, is Eden the end? Perhaps the end point? Many of you have probably heard the terms soulless beings, matrix programs, or organic portals. These terms could be used to accurately describe most of the beings we encounter on a day-to-day basis. A common assertion is that if only people knew the truth, then hearts and minds could finally be set free. That if only we could raise awareness about, say, our Earth being an immovable flat plane, or about the importance of compassion, that the collective consciousness would change, and evil would slowly erode. But we're not dealing with beings who are concerned with collective truth and understanding, of consciousness exploration and attunement, of universal respect. We're dealing, essentially, with a huge number of programs of an AI consciousness. The majority of those we see are beings who have somehow imprisoned themselves within this matrix, and many are being sustained by an AI oversoul. For a full explanation of this AI oversoul, please go back to my video on mind parasites. The energy extraction matrix, the artificial system of control within this Earth matrix, is here because it's meant to be here. The quote dead are able to busy themselves with toxic food and drink, defiling entertainment, the consumption of the flesh and fluids of animals, the dramas of day-to-day life, maintaining the system so its jaws stay open to devour. The term, if you don't use it, you'll lose it, can absolutely be applied to our ability to connect with our souls, to be empathetic and unified. Over time, it is possible to disconnect from your original oversoul in favor of a more binary, hive mind consciousness. This is what most of the beings we encounter on a day-to-day basis have done to themselves. The distinct difference between a living being and an organic portal is their energy centers. Organic portals are able to mimic the higher energy centers or chakras of living beings. They are, in fact, the walking dead. They sustain the dual conditions of these outer lands because that is their built-in function. This is what the Matrix movie was personifying with the agents of the Matrix.
If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
If you were in the land of the dead, how would you know? Well, it would take some investigation. First, you would look and determine what are the pervasive and accepted attitudes of the inhabitants in this realm. For let us remember, Hyperborea is a beautiful realm where the accepted attitudes of the inhabitants are based in unity, respect, and harmonious coexistence. Therefore, we say Hyperborea is a heavenly realm, and because the realm one is in is determined by one's consciousness, we can therefore say Eden is a realm meant for the residents of beings who have an affinity for enlightenment and harmony. This is not what we see in these outer lands. We observe unwavering violence and aggression and division, materialism, scientific reductionism. It's like a perpetual storm of reaction and stable instability that is accepted and embraced by most of the population. So these outer lands definitely have this infection, this mind virus that aims to sustain the energy extraction matrix. I describe this mind virus in more detail in my video on Plato's allegory of the cave. Okay, so once you've determined this, secondly, you would then ask, why are these the accepted attitudes of this realm? After all, if we're all beings on a mission to achieve purification and thus liberation, then why would so many conscious beings choose to propel and accept so much falsity and nonsense, even when hand-fed the truth? Well, it's because they are not all conscious beings. Like I said, most are soulless beings attached to an AI consciousness. Thirdly, you would look at the entity that most people are worshiping in their prayers. 54% of people, to be specific. This entity is what the Christians and Jews call Yahweh or God, and what Muslims call Allah. This monotheistic deity is not the supreme source of energy in this multiverse, but is what the Gnostics call the demiurge. The demiurge is described as arrogant, incompetent, and sometimes violent in how he treats the beings on Earth. And when we look at the stories throughout the Old and New Testament, we find a lot of vengeance, aggression, possessiveness, and even resentment from this deity. The demiurge is the deity that stands between the human race and the transcendent source, the true God that can only be achieved through personal gnosis and not worship like the demiurge demands. Gnostics hold that the world is orchestrated by the demiurge and his archons. For an in-depth review on this Gnostic tale, check out my video Sophia the Black Sun. Somewhere in that video, I describe how the term Hyperborea can actually be translated to meaning beyond the demiurge, the same name as the Greek god of the north wind, Boreas. Therefore, the worship of the demiurge is no surprise. It's because you're in the land of the dead. It's clear. The land of the dead is organized by an incompetent, sometimes malevolent deity, whereas the land of the living, Hyperborea, is organized solely by the demiurge's counterpart, Sophia. The demiurge is Father Time, the Grim Reaper. After all, those bound to time are bound to death. Those in the land of the dead are destined to die death upon death until deciding to wake up from the self-inflicted amnesia. This limitation of time does not exist at the center because it's a balanced realm, untouched by Father Time. These outer lands offer vastly important experiences, so I'm not saying being here in the first place is a mistake. Far from it. Without the experience of duality, we cannot truly appreciate unity. Without the reminder of suffering, we cannot be forces for harmony. We must first feel the truth from within, apply the truth, and then, when the time comes, we must take a voyage to the center, where we will essentially be picked up from the dead, resurrected. In Na's Book of the Resurrection, Miguel Serrano states that we each have a sort of other half in Hyperborea waiting for us. This elusive idea he calls him/her. Serrano believed when one was taken back to Hyperborea, they would achieve, quote, absolute personality, achieving oneself, separated and united for all time in the separation of him/her and her/him, in the immortality of a resurrection. In describing the ethereal mist of Hyperborea, Serrano elusively explains, they will also have given a face to him/her and her/him, illuminating the non-existence of the black sun with the light of this other world. Because through drinking the liquor of eternal love in the grail of green stone, they have been able to penetrate the virginity of their own and each other's monads. Now, upon death, the ancient Egyptians believed one's heart would be weighed against a feather, and if the scales were balanced, they would be able to begin a perilous journey through the realm called Duat, until they reached Aru, which is their version of Avalon, the Garden of Eden. It's the Egyptian field of reeds, yet another timeless paradise of the gods and enlightened. These myths make it clear that Duat is a place one goes to after death. Duat is a chaotic place. One has to make a long and dangerous journey through it in order to access the higher realm of Aru. If Miguel Serrano is correct, and resurrection happens once we find the Holy Grail at the center, and if we truly are in Hades, this would mean we're in the Duat right now. In order to leave, we must wake up, and then find Aru at the center. Well, it looks like you've stayed. So, I'm gonna give you a secret. I've talked about this before. It's a practice that myself and thousands of others have engaged in order to fully activate our Hyperborean blood memory. In other words, to remember who we are and to proclaim to the universe that we are not dead, that we refuse to be assimilated. Blood over intent refers to the fact that the elite and the various soulless beings are AI, inorganic. They're not of blood. All they have is intent. No real blood, just intent to harm and manipulate and suck off energy from others. In order to heal humanity of this mind virus invasion, we cannot violate as they do. No being can just have the intent to heal humanity. It's necessary to be human and real and be your own alchemist. That would be blood over intent. These parasites essentially cheat divine law and try to skirt cause and effect, karma. But we can't cheat. The living beings cannot cheat. So we had to incarnate into human bodies and enter this battle from within, embed ourselves, suffer all the effects of being in a dense, virus-ridden realm in order to teach and heal from within, in order to have the right to engage with healing humanity. We have to be of the blood. The overall plan is to become the human that is eternal, free, and unscathed by archonic energy. What we are seeing in the world is a timeless war between parasites and those of true living blood. This imbalance is becoming more apparent. Something has to give. So we can place our blood on our divine intent. We can choose to heal ourselves, make decisions in line with a unified consciousness. And most importantly, we can leave the land of the dead. How all of this will play out, I cannot say. What I can say is we are currently in the midst of a shift, a psychodrama playing right before our eyes. And if the Shambhala myth is correct, then we, those with living blood, are those who direct the destiny of mankind. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves, everyone. Until next time, I love you.